Potentially bright lad, I thought.
We're trapped now, aren't we?
Yes, we're trapped.
Well, didn't you think of anything?
Oh yeah, but unfortunately, it rather involved being on the other side of the airtight hatchway they've just sealed behind us.
So what happens next?
Well, the hatchway in front of us will open automatically in a moment, and we'll shoot out into deep space and asphyxiate in about 30 seconds.
So this is it? We're going to die?
Yes. Except... No! Wait a minute! What's this switch?
What? Where?
No, I was only fooling. We're going to die after all.
You know, it's at times like this, when I'm trapped in a Vogon airlock with a man from Beetlejuice and about to die of asphyxiation in deep space, that I really wished I'd listened to what my mother told me when I was young.
Why, what did she tell you?
I don't know, I didn't listen.
The Hitch Hikers' Guide to the Galaxy is a truly remarkable book. The introduction starts like this. Space, it says, is big. Really big. You just wouldn't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. I mean, you may think it's a long way down the street to the chemist, but that's just peanuts compared to space. Listen, and so on. After a while, the style settles down a bit, and it starts telling you things you actually need to know. The fact that the fabulously beautiful planet Beth Selamin is now so worried about the cumulative erosion caused by 10 million visiting tourists each year that any net imbalance between the amount you eat and the amount you excrete whilst on the planet is surgically removed from your body weight when you leave. So every time you go to the lavatory there, it is vitally important to get a receipt. In the entry in which it talks about dying of asphyxiation 30 seconds after being thrown out of a spaceship, it goes on to say that, what with space being the size it is, the chances of being picked up by another craft within those seconds are 2 to the power 267,997 to 1 against, which by a staggering coincidence was also the telephone number of an Islington flat where Arthur once went to a very good party, had some very good food with some very good friends, and met a very nice girl, whom he totally failed to get off with. Though the planet Earth, the Islington flat and the telephone have now all been demolished, it is comforting to reflect that they are in some small way commemorated by the fact that 29 seconds later, Arthur and Ford were in fact rescued.
There you are. I told you I'd think of something.
Oh, sure.
Right idea of mine. Find a passing spaceship and get rescued by it.
Oh, come on. The chances against it were astronomical.
Don't knock it, it worked. Where the hell are we?
Well, I hardly like to say this, but it looks like the seafront at Southend.
God, I'm relieved to hear you say that.
Why?
Because I thought I must be going mad.
Perhaps we weren't rescued after all. Perhaps we died.
What's that meant to mean?
When I was young, I used to have this nightmare about dying. I used to lie awake at night screaming. All my school friends went to heaven or hell, and I was sent to Southend.
Look, perhaps we better ask somebody what's going on. How about that man over there?
The one with the 5 heads crawling up the wall?
Yeah.
Sir, excuse me. Excuse me. You know, if this is Southend, there's something very odd about it.
What, you mean the way the sea stays as steady as a rock, and the buildings keep washing up and down? Yes, I thought that was odd.
2 to the power of 100,000 to 1 against...
What was that?
No, sounds like a measurement of probability. Hey, that couldn't mean... No.
What?
I'm not sure, but I definitely think we're on some sort of spaceship.
Then I can only assume we're not in the first-class compartment. Southend seems to be melting away. The stars are swirling. A dust bowl. Snow. My legs drifting off into the sunset. Hell, my left arm's come off too. How am I going to operate my mobile phone now? Ford, you're turning into a penguin. Stop it.
Power of 75,000 to 1 against and falling.
Hey, who are you? Where are you? What's going on? Is there any way of stopping it?
Please relax, you're perfectly safe.
That is not the point. The point is I am now a perfectly safe penguin. My colleague here is rapidly running out of limbs.
It's all right. I've got them back now.
2 to the power of 50,000 to 1 against and falling.
Isn't there anything you feel you ought to be telling us?
Welcome to the starship Heart of Gold. Please do not be alarmed by anything you see or hear around you. You are bound to feel some initial ill effects as you've been rescued from certain death at an improbability level of 2 to the power of 267,997 to 1 against, possibly much higher. We're now cruising at a level of 2 to the power of 25,000 to 1 against and falling, and we will be restoring normality as soon as we are sure what normal is anyway, thank you. 2 to the power of 20,000 to 1 against and falling.
Arthur, this is fantastic. We've been picked up by a ship with a new infinite improbability drive. I mean, this is really incredible, Arthur. Arthur? What's happening?
Oh, there's an infinite number of monkeys here who want to talk to us about this script for Hamlet they've worked out.
The infinite improbability drive is a wonderful new method of crossing interstellar distances in a few seconds without all that tedious mucking about in hyperspace. The principle of generating small amounts of finite improbability by simply hooking the logic circuits of a Bambleweenie 57 sub-meson brain to an atomic vector plotter suspended in a strong Brownian motion producer, say a nice hot cup of tea, were of course well understood, and such generators were often used to break the ice at parties by making all the molecules in the hostess's undergarments simultaneously leap 1 foot to the left in accordance with the theory of indeterminacy. Many respectable physicists said they weren't going to stand for that sort of thing, partly because it was a debasement of science, but mostly because they didn't get invited to those sort of parties. Another thing they couldn't stand was the perpetual failure they encountered in trying to construct a machine which could generate the infinite improbability field needed to flip a spaceship between the furthest stars, and in the end they grumpily announced that such a machine was virtually impossible. Then one day, a student who had been left to sweep up the lab after a particularly unsuccessful party found himself reasoning this way. If such a machine is a virtual impossibility, then it must logically be a finite improbability. So all I have to do in order to make one is work out exactly how improbable it is, feed that figure into the finite improbability generator, give it a fresh cup of really hot tea, and turn it on. The moment he did this, he was rather startled to discover that he had managed to create the long-sought-after infinite improbability generator out of thin air. It startled him even more when, just after he was awarded the Galactic Institute's prize for extreme cleverness, he got lynched by a rampaging mob of respectable physicists who had finally realized that the one thing they really couldn't stand was a smartass.